All right, get ready, because today we're going deep, really deep into hypno-channeling.
Ooh, hypno-channeling.
Yeah, we're going to explore this idea that everyone we meet, anyone, is like a reflection of ourselves.
Like they're holding up a mirror.
Yeah, to our energy, our growth, all of it.
Well, that's definitely a fascinating concept. We're using a clip for this deep dive. It's from Hypno Vibes on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I've seen that channel.
Yeah, well, the clip has hypnotist Naomi.
Okay.
And a participant named Jessica, and then a channeled energy called Oliver.
Oliver. That's right. And he's saying some pretty wild stuff about our relationships basically being like a crash course in self-discovery.
Exactly. It's like these people are like cosmic instructors.
Oh, wow.
Put here to teach us and help us evolve.
So we have to unpack this, right? Oliver says, everyone we encounter in this reality is our version of them.
Right.
What does that even mean?
Okay, so it's not like other people don't have their own, unique experiences and perspectives. It's more like the way we see them. The way they show up in our lives is like filtered.
Okay.
Through our own, internal lens, how we see the world.
So it's kind of like we're all walking around with these custom-made glasses,
Yeah.
rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
Maybe some seriously smudged lenses, depending on the day.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. The key here is that our energy,
Okay.
our thoughts, beliefs, all of that contributes to the prescription of those lenses.
So we're like shaping the reality that we experience, at least when it comes to relationships.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Oliver suggests that every single person, every single one
Wow.
who pops into our lives,
Okay.
from the barista who makes our coffee to our closest friends, is there for a reason.
Okay.
They're there to teach us something.
So you're telling me that my grumpy landlord is actually like my spiritual guru in disguise?
Well, maybe not in the traditional sense.
Okay.
But the point is that there's a lesson. There's something to be learned from every interaction. It might be about patience or setting boundaries or, maybe even just like accepting that not everyone is going to be, sunshine and rainbows.
Okay. I can see that. I can see how that would apply to some of my, let's just say, challenging relationships.
Right.
But what happens if we don't get the message? What if we just miss the lesson?
Well, Oliver says that when we fail to learn those lessons,
Yeah.
the relationship might fall apart or the person might, kind of drift away.
So it's like the universe is giving us a little cosmic nudge.
Yeah.
Like, hey, pay attention. This is here to help you grow.
Exactly. And it goes even deeper than that. According to Oliver, those unlearned lessons, they can kind of fester. And they can even manifest in other areas of our lives. Sometimes it shows up as feelings of frustration, like things just aren't working out.
You're saying that my tendency to attract, flaky friends could actually be a sign that I need to work on my own self-worth.
Well, it's possible. Remember, we're talking about a reflection here, right? The people in our lives they're mirroring back to us.
Okay.
Our own patterns of beliefs and, even those deep-seated insecurities.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
So if we keep having the same frustrating dynamics in our relationships,
Right.
it might be a sign we need to do some serious soul searching.
You got it. It's about taking responsibility for our own energy and recognizing that we have the power to change the reflection we see, in the world around us.
Okay, so that makes sense. But how do we actually do that? How do we address those unlearned lessons?
Yeah.
And shift our energy to attract, more positive experiences?
Well, Oliver suggests a couple different approaches. He mentions things like hypnosis
Okay.
and plant medicine as tools to help us access like a deeper level of awareness.
Right.
And reveal those hidden lessons.
He also talks about going within to find those answers, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. He says that true healing comes from introspection and being radically honest with ourselves.
Okay, but what does going within actually look like? I mean, it sounds a bit, mystical and abstract.
Well, it's about getting curious about our own thoughts and behaviors. It's about asking ourselves, those tough questions.
Like what?
Like, why do I keep attracting this type of person? Or what role am I playing in this dynamic?
So it's about identifying like the negative beliefs
Yes.
and patterns that might be holding us back.
Exactly. And it's about actively choosing to shift our perspective,
Okay.
to challenge those, limiting beliefs and replace them with something more empowering.
It sounds like a journey of self-discovery, like an archaeological dig
Yeah.
into the depths of our subconscious.
That's a great analogy. And just like with any good archaeologist, we might unearth some uncomfortable truths along the way.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I used to have this belief, this limiting belief that I wasn't good enough to be successful in my field.
Oh.
It was like this invisible wall holding me back from my goals. But once I started to really examine that belief and challenge it, I was able to break free.
Wow, that's a perfect example of how our beliefs shape our reality.
Yeah.
And it shows the power we have to transform our lives just by changing the way we think. But Oliver doesn't stop there.
Okay.
He challenges some pretty common assumptions about energy healing.
This is where I'm intrigued. He's claiming that all those negative energies,
Yeah.
they actually originate from within.
Yes. And that is a really powerful point. He's saying that instead of looking for, external sources to blame
Right.
for our problems, we need to turn inward.
So it's not about some, dark force attaching itself to us or some bad juju we picked up along the way.
Not according to Oliver. He's saying that everything, even those experiences that feel negative
Right.
or draining, are ultimately reflections of our own internal state.
That makes me think about those times when I feel blocked or stuck, like something's preventing me from moving forward.
Yeah.
Is he saying those blocks are self-created?
That's the question he's posing. He does acknowledge that energy healing can be helpful
Okay.
in, providing temporary relief from those symptoms. But he says, true, lasting change requires a deeper shift within ourselves.
So it's like using a bandage
Yeah.
to cover a wound without actually, addressing the infection.
Exactly. Oliver emphasizes that genuine healing comes from realizing,
Yeah.
understanding, and tapping into a different vibration, a different reality.
So he's talking about like a fundamental shift in perspective.
Precisely. And he draws some interesting parallels to the transformative effects of psychedelics.
Oh, wow.
Pointing out that it's the realization and the subsequent change in perspective that leads to true healing. But he's not advocating for drug use, is he?
I don't think so.
No, he's simply highlighting the importance of, seeing things from a different angle, of breaking free from our habitual, patterns of thought and perception.
And that brings us to, I think, one of Oliver's most crucial points.
Okay.
The power of acceptance and realization as catalysts for change.
Yes.
Okay, I'm all ears. What does he mean by that?
He's suggesting that we need to embrace both the positive and the negative aspects of ourselves, that true growth comes from accepting, the totality of our experience,
Okay.
rather than trying to deny or suppress the parts we deem undesirable.
So instead of trying to be perfect
Yeah.
or pretending we have it all together,
Right.
we need to acknowledge our flaws, our shadows, our vulnerabilities.
Exactly. Oliver even cautions against falling into the trap of false positivity.
Oh, yeah.
Where we try to force ourselves to be happy all the time while ignoring, the real challenges.
So it's about authenticity,
Mm-hmm.
about being real with ourselves.
Yes.
Allowing ourselves to experience the full spectrum of human emotions.
You got it. And Oliver believes that once we embrace this, wholeness, once we stop fighting against ourselves, change can happen, rapidly. It's about aligning ourselves with a different version of ourselves.
This is where I need some clarification. What does he mean by shifting to a different version of ourselves?
Right.
Does this involve shedding our old identity and becoming a completely new person?
Not necessarily. It's more about recognizing that we're constantly evolving, that we're not, fixed or static.
So it's about evolving,
Yeah.
about growing into a more expanded version of ourselves.
Exactly. It's about shedding those limiting beliefs and behaviors that, no longer serve us and stepping into a more authentic and empowered way of being.
Wow, okay, this is starting to click. So it's not about denying our past or trying to erase the parts we don't like.
Right.
It's about integrating those experiences, those lessons,
Yeah.
into a more whole and complete version of ourselves.
That's a fantastic way to put it. And this brings us to a really important point. This process of shifting, it's not about striving for perfection.
Correct.
It's not about becoming some, idealized version of who we think we should be.
Right. Oliver specifically warns against falling into the trap of false positivity.
Exactly. He's saying that we need to embrace both our, our positive and negative aspects, process and understand them in order to experience genuine growth.
It's like instead of trying to erase the parts of ourselves we don't like, we need to integrate them and learn from them.
That's a great way to put it. And Oliver stresses that this process of acceptance and realization is what ultimately catalyzes change.
I've experienced this in my own life. And for a long time, I struggled with anxiety.
Oh, wow.
I tried to push it away, pretend it wasn't there.
Right.
But that just made it worse. It wasn't until I started to accept my anxiety as a part of me, to understand where it was coming from, that I was able to start managing it in a healthy way.
That's a perfect example of how acceptance can lead to positive change. It's not about, resigning ourselves to our challenges, but rather about acknowledging them.
Right.
And working with them.
It's like once we stop fighting ourselves, we can finally start moving forward.
Exactly. And Oliver's final message is incredibly powerful. Change can happen rapidly through acceptance and, shifting perspectives.
Wow, this is heavy stuff, but I'm totally hooked. It feels like this concept could radically change the way we approach everything.
Yeah.
From relationships to personal growth to even our, understanding of the universe.
It really is a paradigm shift, and it's
Oh.
something that each of us can explore and apply, in our own unique way.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground here. Before we move on, let's just take a moment to, let all of this sink in.
That's a great idea. These are powerful concepts. They deserve some time to marinate.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's take what we've learned about mirroring and apply it to, like a real life situation.
Yeah.
Let's say you're struggling with a difficult coworker.
Okay, yeah, I think we can all relate to that. Everyone's got that one colleague
Right.
who, just pushes their buttons.
Exactly. And instead of getting caught up, in the drama,
Mhm.
the frustration,
Right.
Oliver's perspective challenges us to ask, what is this person reflecting back to me?
So instead of focusing on how annoying they are or difficult,
Right.
I should be looking inward, asking myself what part of me is being triggered.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that their behavior, while maybe not justifiable, is serving as a mirror,
Yeah.
highlighting something within you that might need attention.
So let's say this coworker is constantly interrupting me and taking credit for my ideas.
Okay, that's a great example. How does that make you feel?
Well, honestly, it makes me feel frustrated, undervalued, maybe even a little insecure, like I need to speak up more and assert myself.
Exactly. And those feelings, that sense of being undervalued,
Right.
the need to assert yourself, those are the clues.
So you're saying this coworker's behavior might be reflecting back to me like my own struggle with self-worth and setting boundaries.
It's definitely something to consider. Perhaps you're giving away your power in other areas of your life, or maybe you have a pattern of, not speaking up for yourself.
Wow, that's a real eye-opener. It's like I've been so focused on their behavior that I haven't even, considered what it might be saying about me.
That's the power of this concept. It shifts the focus from blame and judgment to self-awareness and growth.
Yeah.
You
It's almost like these frustrating relationships become opportunities
Yeah.
for like profound personal transformation.
Exactly. They become our teachers.
Wow.
Even if the lessons are delivered in a, less than pleasant package.
But okay, what if the other person is genuinely toxic
Right.
or abusive?
Mm-hmm.
Does Oliver's concept still apply in those situations?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's important to, to acknowledge that not all difficult relationships are created equal,
Right.
There are situations where someone's behavior is truly harmful and damaging.
So it's not about condoning bad behavior
No,
or staying in a toxic situation.
absolutely not. In those cases, the lesson might be about, setting healthy boundaries,
Okay.
protecting yourself, or even removing yourself from the situation altogether.
So even in those extreme cases, there's still a valuable lesson.
Always, it might be a lesson about self-respect, knowing your worth, or recognizing the red flags of, unhealthy dynamics.
Okay.
And this is where, Oliver's emphasis on going within becomes so crucial. It's about cultivating, that inner wisdom
Right.
and discernment to recognize what's truly serving us and what's holding us back.
So it's not about blaming ourselves for other people's bad behavior,
Right.
but rather it's about empowering ourselves to make choices that support our well-being.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we always have a choice, even in the most challenging situations.
I've been thinking about Oliver's message about shifting to a different version of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to see how this whole concept can be like a catalyst for incredible personal growth. It's like we're being challenged to, level up,
Yeah.
to become more conscious and intentional in creating the reality we want to experience.
That's beautifully said. It's about recognizing that we are not, passive victims of circumstance,
Yeah.
but active participants in shaping our own lives.
Okay, I'm really starting to get this, but I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on Oliver's emphasis on shifting our perspectives
Yeah.
and embracing both, the positive and the negative?
Well, I find it incredibly empowering. It reminds me of, that ancient wisdom of yin and yang, the idea that seemingly opposite forces are actually interconnected and interdependent.
So it's not about like striving for constant happiness or denying those difficult emotions that inevitably come up.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that the whole spectrum of human experience, the joy, the sorrow, the light, the shadow, all of it contributes to our growth and evolution.
It's about embracing the messiness of being human.
Perfectly said. It's about wholeness, not perfection.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about how to apply Oliver's ideas to our relationships.
Right.
But what about, our personal growth journeys?
Mm-hmm.
How does this concept of mirroring play into, our own individual development?
That's a fantastic question. And I think it goes back to, Oliver's core message Everything we experience is a reflection of, our own inner world.
Okay.
So if we want to change our, external reality, we need to start by shifting, our internal landscape.
So if I'm, feeling stuck in a rut or struggling to achieve my goals, it might be a sign that I need to address some limiting beliefs or patterns that are holding me back.
Exactly. Those external challenges, they often serve as mirrors,
Okay.
reflecting back to us the areas where we need to grow and evolve.
So instead of focusing on the obstacles,
Right.
I should be asking myself, what is this teaching me about myself?
Precisely. It's about turning those challenges into opportunities for self-discovery and growth.
This makes me think about all those self-help books
Yeah.
that talk about the importance of positive thinking
Right.
and visualizing, your desired outcomes.
Yeah.
But Oliver seems to be suggesting that that true change involves more than just wishful thinking.
Absolutely. It's about acknowledging, the present moment with all its imperfections and challenges, and choosing to see it as, fertile ground for growth.
So it's not about denying the negative or pretending everything is, perfect.
Right.
It's about embracing the whole picture and using it as fuel for our, evolution.
That's a powerful way to put it, and I think it speaks to a deeper truth about the nature of reality. We're not, separate from the world around us.
Right.
You're constantly interacting with it, influencing it, and being influenced by it.
So in a sense, we are all co-creators of our own reality.
Exactly. And the more conscious we become of our thoughts, beliefs, and actions, the more power we have to shape the reality we experience.
I'm realizing that this concept of mirroring goes way beyond just our personal relationships. It extends to every aspect of our lives, our work, our health, our finances, even our, spiritual journeys.
I completely agree. It's a fundamental principle
Yeah.
that can be applied to, any area where we're seeking growth and transformation.
It's like we're being challenged to see the world as a giant feedback mechanism,
Yeah.
constantly reflecting back to us our own patterns and beliefs.
That's a brilliant way to put it. And the beauty of this concept is that it empowers us to take ownership of our experience. Okay. We're not just, passive recipients of whatever life throws our way. We have the power to choose how we perceive and respond to those experiences.
So instead of feeling like victims of circumstance,
Right.
we can become conscious creators of our own reality.
Exactly. And that's a truly empowering perspective.
Yeah, it really is a mind-blowing concept, isn't it? This whole idea that we're not just passive observers in our own lives,
Right.
but active creators shaping the reality we experience.
Yeah, it's incredibly empowering to think that we have the ability to change our lives
Yeah.
just by changing the way we see things.
I'm still reeling from Oliver's message about how those unlearned lessons can manifest as frustration and even depression. Is like a wake-up call to pay attention to those recurring patterns in our lives.
Absolutely. And to remember that those patterns, those challenges are not punishments,
Right.
but opportunities for growth.
Yeah.
They're the universe's way of nudging us
Oh, wow.
toward a deeper understanding of ourselves.
It's funny. We often hear people talk about manifesting their desires.
Right.
About using the power of positive thinking to attract what they want.
Yeah.
But Oliver's message seems to suggest that it goes much deeper than that.
Right. It's not just about putting out good vibes and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
It's about doing the inner work.
Right.
Confronting those limiting beliefs and aligning ourselves with a higher vibration.
So it's not about denying the negative or pretending everything is perfect.
Right.
It's about embracing the whole picture, the light and the shadow.
Yeah.
And using it as fuel for our evolution.
Exactly. It's about wholeness, not perfection.
Right.
And that reminds me of something Oliver said that really struck a chord with me.
Okay.
His caution against falling into the trap of false positivity.
Yeah. He emphasized that true growth comes from acknowledging and accepting both the positive and negative aspects of ourselves.
And that it's through that process of acceptance and integration that we can experience genuine transformation.
So it's not about trying to force ourselves to be happy all the time or ignoring the very real challenges we face.
Right.
It's about finding a way to hold space for all of it, the joy and the sorrow,
Yeah.
the triumphs and the setbacks.
That's beautifully said. It's about recognizing that life is a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
And that the challenges we encounter are not obstacles to be avoided, but opportunities for growth and expansion.
One of the things that really blew my mind was Oliver's suggestion that we can shift to a different version of ourselves rapidly, even instantaneously. It's like he's saying we have the power to change our reality in an instant simply by changing our perspective.
And that's such a powerful concept. It reminds us that we're not stuck in our current circumstances.
Yeah.
We always have the power to choose a different thought, a different belief, a different action.
It's about reclaiming our power as conscious creators.
Exactly. And to me, that's the most inspiring message of all.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored the concept of mirroring, the importance of acceptance and realization, and the power of shifting our perspectives to create a more fulfilling and joyful reality.
And we've learned that this isn't just some esoteric philosophy.
Mhm.
There's real science behind it, with research emerging all the time that supports the profound connection between our thoughts, beliefs, and experiences.
I'm feeling incredibly inspired by this conversation, and I hope our listeners are too.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful reminder that we have more control over our lives than we often realize.
Absolutely. And I think the key is to remember that this is a journey, not a destination.
Mhm.
It's about being curious, being open to new perspectives, and being willing to do the inner work.
Well said. And if you're feeling inspired to explore these concepts further, be sure to check out HypnoVibes on YouTube and Naomi Zhu's book, The Next Level.
They're both fantastic resources for anyone who's ready to dive deeper into the world of hypnochanneling and the power of the subconscious mind.
So as you go about your day, remember to look for the mirrors in your life. Notice the patterns, the challenges, the people who push your buttons.
And ask yourself, what is this teaching me about myself? What can I learn from this experience?
Because within each of those reflections lies an opportunity for profound growth and transformation. Until next time, keep exploring, keep evolving, and keep diving deep.
Speak with whatever the appropriate energy to understand this part about everyone that we're dealing with, interacting with in this reality is our version of them. So regarding this, I have some questions to ask, and whatever the right energy can come through when I count to 3. 1, coming through, 2, and 3.
This is Oliver.
Oh, thank you. I know you are
Very
busy.
eager to help.
Thank you. I really appreciate. So let's say, right? I was having.
What about this do you not get? You ask this very often.
So I was having conversation with AI, and the let's say, the Chat GPT.
Well, it's not very hard to understand. It's not only your version of them. They're always reflecting something back to you. They can't be any other version besides your version if they're simply just responding and mirroring your energy as well.
Right, but from their point of view, right, their version of me.
Because you are also responding and reacting to what they're acting like. It's not, yes, only you are in the universe, but everyone is in unison, is aligned, is all connected.
Right, but this part is sometimes I understand better, and sometimes I feel.
But what are you going to use this for that you have to understand?
So let's say if I, right, with a person that let's say I'm interacting with, and there's a lesson for me to learn, and if I'm not learning, then what will happen? So this person will disappear. This person will no longer have a relationship with me.
What will happen will be the most suitable outcome for your learning.
I'm not sure. Let's say the person can walk away or stop.
You don't have to always know what's going to happen.
So something will happen if I'm not learning.
Yes.
Right? And so let's say then what will happen next is I will meet another person.
That doesn't always have to be the case. It depends. There's no answer for that.
Right. It can be no one. So
there are many different possibilities, not just
right.
2.
But then this unlearned lesson will remain until I learn the lesson. It can be this life or another life. But what will happen to the unlearned lesson? It's some type of energy.
What will happen if there's an unlearned lesson is that you will slowly begin to feel worse and worse about
myself.
You won't feel very good in general.
Very interesting. And without knowing why.
Yes. So some people just feel more and more depressed because it just seems like nothing is working out according to how they say and feel it.
So let's say I have clients, they come to my office and they say, I don't feel good about myself.
Because they have not really reflected on what life was trying to show them.
So they can do, let's say, a hypnosis session.
To see clearly.
Right. Or let's say a plant medicine.
Yes, and make that their intention.
Or they can just go within.
That is the hardest one to do as long as they're ready. Because they have to be fully honest with themselves. And to be able to really be the one to take full responsibility for their thoughts, behaviors, and reactions.
So let's say if they really want to heal themselves and they can go within and say, what are my negative beliefs about myself or others, and let it go. So what is the process?
It's a little different for everyone as they're all different. But they really have to ask themselves, What are they really believing to be 100% true that no longer serves them, that made them feel badly?
About themselves.
Yes.
Let's say they say the answer is this or that, and then what?
If they really have gotten the true answer, that they will know what to do with it. It would make sense to them. It would resonate with them. They wouldn't need to ask what to do now. They would know.
So now I understand that if we have a lot of unlearned lessons, then you will, right? Let's say if that's my case, I will not feel good about myself.
Yes.
I see. Right. And people can say I'm stuck or I'm blocked.
Or nothing is working out. Everyone is acting this way to me. Why is nothing working out?
I see. Wow, this is a very, how to say, and this is something that it's not, I don't know, but I did not understand things are working this way, in this manner. And so they're also, when they have unlearned lessons, they are holding certain energies inside of their body.
That's one way that things can play out, and not necessarily always truth for everyone.
So that means, let's say they might not have any energies became stuck in their physical body, but they still can feel this way.
Don't understand the question.
So I thought if someone says, I don't feel good, nothing is working out, people are not nice to me, usually there's certain energies got stuck in their physical body.
But you have to understand that nothing comes from anywhere else besides themselves. It's not like there's negative energy just latching onto them.
Right.
No one's really a true victim in that regard.
Right.
That's not taking full responsibility for your own life. That's blaming something else for feeling bad.
So what do you say? Because when I'm, asking them if they see certain energies are
That's usually a
stuck.
reflection of themselves. It's coming from themselves. They attracted that in a way for them to experience it. They wouldn't experience it if it wasn't relevant to their own learning.
So they're not, how to say, it's not because they're holding on to that energy. They're not letting them go. It's because they created?
It's energy and all about energy and resonance.
I'm not sure if I understand. So they're attracted.
They're attracting in a way, on a soul level, allowing. Because it is relevant to their soul growth.
No, I think I understand.
There's really no such thing as a negative energy or entity attacking anyone.
So they're attracting that energy.
They're not exactly attracting negative energy either. It's just that attracts experiences.
I see. So the healing will make them understand, and at the same time also will make those energies.
Everything is a reflection of you.
So then those energies will also go as soon as they realize the truth about themselves.
When they realize the truth about themselves, they are a different version of themselves.
So they're a different person.
Yes.
So that energy is not with the new person.
No, they already shifted.
So then the healing is not really necessary then. I just need to help
don't
them to
understand.
shift. So I don't need
Healing is not about taking over energy and extracting it. It's about allowing themselves to understand it from a different perspective.
So then how
Healing
about,
is a very human term.
so how about the energy healing? Let's say someone is doing Reiki.
We don't understand.
So the person, right, the practitioner is acting as a conduit.
Well, in that case, what's happening is that both have a working relationship, a collaboration, an allowance for one to see into their energetic system. They can remove it, yes, it's their own free will, but they have not really attacked or tackled or realized why it's there. Everything is a reflection. Of course, they can allow that as a tool to help them feel better in the moment, but that's not necessarily something that they can take with them for the rest of their lives.
I'm not too sure if I understand this part. Can you explain maybe in a little bit different way?
They have not worked
Yeah.
from within, so they have not really shifted.
So if someone just say, I'm going to help you with your, right, to help you to release your negative energies, there's no such thing.
We do not want to say it so harshly that there is no such thing. However, most of the healing comes from realizing and understanding and shifting and tapping into different vibrations and realities.
I see. Wow. So, right, if I'm not doing that, but there are people are helping, how to say, they're calling themselves doing energy healing. So the most important thing for them to help someone is to help this person to shift to a different reality.
To help them to realize They automatically shift once they realize.
They have to realize. Right. And so hypnosis, or right, by
That's why people change after psychedelics, because they realize and fully understand, so they automatically shift.
I see. So then we don't have to worry about the old version of them.
They're already different. They're not, that old version no longer exists.
And some people, let's say they had some physical disease, and after, let's say, the psychedelics, they don't have that disease.
Because they're different.
Right. So let's say if some...
Just like people with multiple personalities suddenly have physical symptoms once their other personality
does not have that. Wow. So all we need to do is to realize and then shift.
Yes.
Very good. I really appreciate this part. I think I realized a lot of things today, and I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to speak with you. And because this helps me to know that, right, what I need to do.
Yes.
And also helps me about what I can do when I'm in a certain situation.
One thing that most healers have in common is the true compassion and love.
So that will make people realize? And
that will help them feel better and realize that there is such warmth on earth.
I see that. And all right, very good. So now I really understand this part much better. So it's not about letting certain energies go.
What are you holding on to?
Say one more time. More than?
If you have to let things go, then you're perceiving that you're holding on to something.
But actually you're not.
You can just turn to a different version. You don't really have to.
So it's like you look at this person, and the person is carrying some baggages, and you say, hey, don't carry those. But this person said, I have a better way.
It's not very helpful, yes.
I have a better way, just shift to a different person, different version.
I've never had that.
Right. Wow.
It's as simple as that, but humans make it very complicated.
Right, but almost no one is talking about this.
This doesn't need to be talked about. It just needs to be experienced, learned, and felt.
But I never heard such a concept. I do understand this because Bashar talked about this, but I never understood it to this degree like today.
Glad to be of service.
And that's so helpful and so simple and so, how to say, people can change in no time.
But most of the things that people have to realize is to fully accept their emotions and not to fall into this, what people call false positivity, where they just ignore everything negative in order to shift to the positive. It doesn't work like that.
Right, because...
it's there for a reason. They have to learn how to process it and fully embrace both dualities and both ends.
Because when they do that, they still have a lot of lessons they carried.
Yes, and it's ironic in the way that once you begin to accept the negative, you become more positive.
Right. It's not about ignoring anything.
No, it's about accepting everything.
Right. Very good. So in the future, if we do workshops, let's say, right, sometimes we need to do this kind of a channeling, and to let people, we're even thinking about live stream, right? So then you can be talking about things like this.
Yes.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much again. And I will speak with you soon.